Coming out of the weekend, our market-moving news this week really comes around these few things. Number one, we've got U.S. tariffs, and we've got trade developments still happening, still negotiating. I know that August is that August 1st area is the area where a lot of folks are concerned that tariffs are going to rise for certain countries. I think that might happen. Here's the scenario. I think if it happens, it's going to happen for a very short amount of time, and then we're going to bump it out again, and Trump might do this final 30 days. It's kind of what we're looking at. So I think that this gets pushed into the fall. So there's a possibility. We're also seeing negotiating and deals being worked. Corporate earnings season so far so good. We've had the finance, most of the finance companies, J.P. Morgan, et cetera, come out and release higher than expected earnings. Also, apparently, the tariffs have actually been good for many companies. And we're going to be going into tech here real soon. And we expect at the very least if not a little bit better than expectations. Sentiment right now with the all-time highs that are happening really are around the tech industry and AI stocks. So you can thank those two areas for these new all-time highs. Globally, I think the biggest piece of news out there is that the ECB may actually have a higher chance of cutting rates sooner rather than later. That's going to obviously put pressure on the U.S. to cut rates, which will also push things higher, or at least the perception of that happening will push things higher. So let's have a look at the charts and let's see what's happening with the big 40,000-foot view. All right, so this is SPY. Now, I've got kind of the all-in-one chart here, and then I've got something else I want to share with you, too, that we haven't talked about before. So my big mouse here is ready to get going. There's that V-shaped move we've had, and we're hitting, again, new all-time highs. When you see Fibonacci charts where the top line is centered around what's happening today, that means we're hitting new all-time highs. We're above 631 on the SPY. The low on this was down below 500. I've got trend up. We know sentiment looks good too, but this trend up shows that 640 likely to happen here as we get into the month of August. That is still on the table. So we say 640 target by mid-August. This little area right here, what I did was I went to the money calendar and I took a look at it and I did some research on SPY. And we found that there is a 90% accuracy going back when it started on July 10th, a little more than a week ago, that this rolls all the way into the end of August, 8/21. So for the next month, we're seeing continued moves higher for SPY. We believe that this is likely to top out by mid-August, by around August 15th. And that's where we're starting to really take a look at a change in the wind. I'm going to share that with you when we get into the beginning of August. We'll do a deep dive on seasonality for the month of August. But so far, things look really good for stocks. The other thing I want to mention is look at the volatility. The volatility is bouncing around between 10 and 15. Remember, folks, back in spring, our volatility was trading at 50 and 55. So to go from 55 down to 15 is a more than 2/3 cut in implied volatility. Things are looking really cheap right now. And cheap could be good for the bullish trader. If you're bullish and you feel like all of this makes sense and you've done your own homework, you think that this was likely going to move higher, you might be looking at calls or call spreads. But it also looks good for put option traders, for put spread traders. You know, let's say next month, when we start to see that change, maybe we put some protection on. That's a possibility. But as of right now, we still see things moving higher for the stock market. Bonds. Now, bonds are interesting because the longer-term trend still shows us going down. But medium-term trend has turned there's no trend to it. And the short-term trend seems to be trending up, which means lower interest rates. There is no seasonal pattern that we can spot for TLT. Short-term trend moving up, good for stocks. Look at USO. USO is an interesting one too. We have no seasonal pattern. Seasonal pattern is gone for USO. We're not bullish on it anymore, but we're not bearish. And the mean reversion, when you look at what's going on with Fibonacci, We've seen the low earlier this year. We've seen the high just last month. We've reverted back to the middle here of the Fibonacci sequence, and we're still sitting around that. But I expect we're probably going to stay around the middle of this. So nothing really to do here with oil. As long as oil doesn't jump up or down dramatically, I think that's also good for stocks. This is gold. Guess what? If you haven't looked yet, gold's making another run. It's making another run for those all-time highs. 316.29 is the closing high that we saw back around the middle of June, a little more than a month ago. We were trading at 313 when I snapped this just an hour ago. And so trend and sentiment are both up, but and volatility's gone down, but we did get a jump in volatility just today. And that coincides with the gap in volatility that we see going higher. Now, the last time we saw moves up in volatility, look what happened with GLD. Violent move up in price. So we could see this area here. And this is about you take a look from about 316 to 296. So that's about a 20-point move. This puts us in the 330s if we were to jump out and move higher. Volatility is suggesting that might actually happen. You know what else is suggesting it? This area right here, this is the money counter that says we have an 80% chance of a move higher between now and the end of August. So GLD looks very, very interesting when we look at the chart. Bitcoin, nothing much to change here. You know, I showed this chart last week, and I wanted to show it to you again. Last 100 days, it's a risk-on asset. It hit. It was last week we were above 120. We're sitting around 118 right now, so not far off those all-time highs for Bitcoin. There were 80,000 coins that got sold last week. A whale moved 80,000 coins from a wallet, dumped it, made $8 billion plus. Congratulations to that hodler. But if that hadn't have sold, we'd already be in the mid 120s right now, based on supply and demand. I think we're going to get there. And so, last thing I want to mention here in this little video here, we've been talking about mags for the last couple weeks. So if you were with me live, was it 2 weeks ago? 2 weeks ago, we took a position in mags, less than $2. Now it's trading at $3.25. This one's just been slowly cranking up. I've got my limit price in to sell half of this at $4. So when you buy it at $2 and you sell half of it at $4, you take 100% profit on the half you have. But really what you've done is you've taken your money off the table. So we're still looking for that to occur. We'll see what goes on with that. The high on this one, when I looked at it, was 340. So we're getting there. We're getting there slowly but surely. All right, market summary looks like this. The trend for stocks, commodities, and cryptos, most, by the way, leaning higher. Seasonals are strong for stocks. They're also strong for GLD and Bitcoin into August. So far, earnings have outperformed expectations. We're expecting this to continue at least to the end of the month. The projection is for continued all-time highs for indices, GLD, and BTC. And last, but definitely not least for you option traders, volatility is low on the optionables, SPY and GLD. GLD has popped a little bit, but buying calls or even call spreads may make the most sense for those of you that are also bullish on the overall market.